Getting it real with RealChunWai on the hottest topics, frank, engaging and candid. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. There is a push by Prime Minister Ismail Sabri for the greater use of Bahasa Melayu in the country. He even wants Bahasa Melayu to be the second official language of ASEAN. Can it work? Or are we lost in translation? Joining us tonight is Zubedy, businessman, author, and an adjunct professor at Taylor's University. Please welcome
Malaysia
Zubedy
and followers from around the world. Our special guest tonight is none other than Zubedy, writer, author, businessman, and now an adjunct professor at the Taylor's University. Please welcome Zubedy, my friend.
Thank you very much, brother.
All right, Anas, let's get the conversation going. But before we do that, perhaps I could share some facts and the parameters for the followers who are watching this program. So the first thing is this: the Prime Minister has said that Bahasa Melayu should be the second official language of ASEAN. Second language. He did not say that it must be the official language of ASEAN, because the working language in ASEAN is English. He used the word second. So as we debate this, sometimes it has been lost in translation, so to speak. A lot of people thought that he was saying that Bahasa Melayu must be the official language and working language of ASEAN. So of course, there were those who support him, and there were also a lot of criticism towards him. And the second thing is this: he has said that Bahasa Melayu is the most spoken language in ASEAN, citing it was widely spoken in Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, Southern Thailand, Singapore, Southern Philippines. And in fact, if I may add, there are many Malay words in Tagalog, the spoken language of the Philippines. Okay,
Right.
For example, anak, selamat, these are Malay words.
Yeah.
But here's the twist: Indonesia has now said that it prefers Bahasa Indonesia to be an official language of ASEAN. Okay, that means second, not Bahasa Malaysia. So this is where I think that we need to get the parameters correct.
Yes.
Because while Indonesia has said so, I understand what the Prime Minister was trying to drive the point. He said Bahasa Melayu, because whether it's Bahasa Indonesia or Bahasa Malaysia, or the spoken Malay language in Southern Thailand or in Philippines, the Bahasa Rumpun, the root Bahasa is Melayu. So the word Bahasa Melayu, of course, is interchanged in Malaysia. Sometimes it's used as Bahasa Malaysia, sometimes it's used as Bahasa Melayu. But Bahasa Melayu as a subject is correct, because we do not say, we use the word Chinese language. We do not use China language,
Yes.
Taiwan language, or Hong Kong language. So Bahasa Melayu is correct, but the Bahasa Rumpun, the root word for the language of the Malays in this Nusantara, is Melayu. So the Prime Minister is quite correct. But having said that, the question now is, why is the Prime Minister suddenly seen to be pushing this Bahasa Melayu, not just in ASEAN, but at the Malaysian level? We all accept the fact that Bahasa Melayu is the official language of the country. This is the unifying language of the country, and it must be encouraged. It must be widely spoken by Malaysians if you call yourself a Malaysian. But now he has pushed it a bit further. Anas, may I have your views on why the Prime Minister is pushing this approach on the language of using Bahasa Melayu?
Yeah, thanks, Chunwai. Of course, we have to second guess why he is so. Yeah, and pushing Bahasa Malaysia to the forefront. And I would say maybe he's more familiar with Bahasa Malaysia. Could be he's more, maybe more nationalist in that way. The language of Bahasa Malaysia, although we can debate what is nationalism all about. And perhaps also he's also one of our first prime minister, which is not actually come from, let's say, a more English-speaking background. And he could be more proud, in using Bahasa Malaysia when overseas. He says now he'll go overseas, our ministers will speak in Bahasa Malaysia. Sorry, Bahasa Melayu actually, Bahasa Melayu. Or in Malaysia, like you say, interchangeable.
Yeah.
So it could be because of that. Well, at the same time, I think the people at the ground level, a certain segment of the Malays are also probably asking for it. I feel that there is a push at the ground level to bring the Malayness to the forefront. More likely than not, because they feel that maybe we are not doing enough. I think maybe the certain group of Malays in the country feel that the non-Malays are not really doing enough towards Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Melayu. Maybe, Junwai, you want to share your background. You are one of those few people who actually chose to learn Malay literature, Indonesian literature from 6th and university, right? So
Anas,
I think you are one of those unique one,
Anas,
yeah.
You caught me by surprise because I thought that I'm the one who should be doing the interview. Now you're interviewing me.
I think you should also share, I think
Okay,
that's important because
maybe before we go to the part about the Prime Minister, since Anas asked me this peculiar question, interesting because that in my sixth form, I chose to study the Malay and Indonesian literature. Okay, while most of my friends then were studying English literature, I chose to study Malay and Indonesian literature. I felt that because one is closer to home and it's closer to my heart. I mean that we live in Malaysia and in Nusantara. Obviously that you hear a lot of familiar names, of great writers of the Malay world. So I thought that baguslah saya belajar bahasa Malaysia dan juga sastra Indonesia dan sastra Melayu. And I actually took one step further, Anas. I took sejarah Islam. It was really mind-boggling because no one would expect this Chinese boy to study sejarah Melayu. But I felt I needed this background. But it was also for a strategic purpose because one of the universities that I wanted to enter was University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And we're talking about 30 years ago, okay? Yes. 30 years ago, and even now, to get your scroll or your diploma from the university, you must pass a course in Islam. It is wajib, okay? Bukan elective, wajib. So since I'm preparing myself to go to UKM, I thought that if I have a strong foundation in sejarah Islam, when I enter into UKM, if they pick me, this is a time when there were only 5 universities, okay? Yeah. So, and Anas is your time, okay? Yeah. University of Malaya, USM, UKM, UPM, and one more, that's it, okay? There were 5. If you're not in one of these 5, you are out completely. Yes. So we were products of that time. So I wanted to go to UKM, and I thought that it was necessary for me to have a strong grounding. And when I went to UKM my first year, I entered and I joined Jabatan Persuratan Melayu to sharpen my fluency in Bahasa Malaysia and Indonesia. And I have no regrets, Anas, I have no regrets. So I'm glad you asked me this question because people will be asking me, kenapa Wong Chunwai ini nampaknya memperjuangkan bahasa Inggeris? I have to say this with a qualification, if you know my background, that I actually love the Malaysian language and the Indonesian language. We will come to that part in the difference. Now, that's just a short intro. Now, when talking about the Prime Minister, I think that you're right, given the background, the educational background, the family background of the Prime Minister, he is more Malay-centric. I presume that he came from the Malay medium school, unlike the previous. Okay. I just want to go through this. Okay, so we start with Tunku Abdul Rahman, our first Prime Minister. He studied at Penang Free School.
My school.
Your school, huh? Okay. Rival school, right, from St. Xavier's, okay? And then he went to Sultan Hamid College, which is, of course, an elite college, right? And Cambridge. Tun Abdul Razak, Malay College Kuala Kangsar, elite school, right? Raffles College and Lincoln's Inn in UK. Tun Hussein On, English College JB, Indian Military College, and Lincoln's Inn in UK. Then, of course, we have Najib Tun Razak, St. John's Institution. We know his background. He's also very English elitist. Melbourne College in UK and University of Nottingham. Right. Even Muhyiddin, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, okay? While he started at the Sekolah Kebangsaan, he went on to the Moa Secondary School, okay? The Moa High School, which is English medium. It was the same with Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi. He studied at the BM High School before he went on to University of Malaya. So they all came from English medium background, exposure to UK, probably very Anglophile. Okay, now suddenly we have Ismail Sabri, who lives from a totally different worldview. He studied in a Malay school, and that obviously he is more. I think he's more comfortable in Bahasa Melayu. And if you look at his circle of friends in hostel and in secondary school, I presume that the hostel school is probably more Malay, sekolah kebangsaan Bangau dan sekolah menengah air putih di Kuantan. So you can see that background, more interested and more comfortable in this is probably a generational shift. And we can say that beside the Prime Minister, there are also other cabinet ministers who may have come from even Chinese educational background, and they're much more proficient in Bahasa Melayu and Chinese than English, right?
Yeah, I think the socialization plays a big role. You'll be more proud. I think. I personally, you know, I think it's a cool idea if our Prime Minister or whoever our ministers, if your English is not that good when you go overseas, you know, do not try to speak the language. I mean, we have some examples in the past. You can be very cool when you speak your own language and somebody translate for you. I think it's all right. It's just that you know, the one I worry most is why every time in this country we like to make it into a competition. Bahasa Malaysia versus English, Bahasa Malaysia versus Mandarin. It is actually complementary. I keep on trying to sell the idea that having more than just one language is complementary. Don't pit it against each other. Just because we let's say promote to speak English doesn't mean we don't like Bahasa Malaysia, and vice versa. That just because we promote Bahasa Malaysia doesn't mean that we don't care about English. You know, I think that's more of my concern. The we make it more political rather than factual. That's my worry.
I agree with you, Anas. Why can't we have all rather than to choose just one? And did you have this kind of narrative? If you are speaking English, you're seen to be not supporting or respecting the Malay language. Or if you are speaking Bahasa Melayu, or you are less sophisticated, you know, you're not as educated as this elitist Anglophile. So we have this kind of narrative, which is actually the media is also equally responsible. If you see some of the things that has been written, why can't we have both? That we should be proficient and be speaking widely Bahasa Melayu and also Bahasa Inggris and even Bahasa Cina and Arabic. That's important. Now, Anas, you started your career in the multinational corporation. You were doing marketing. I mean, most people in Malaysia, you know, they like to be a pegawai kerajaan, you know, or they do to be this administration officer, so they don't have to sell. Okay, but when you have to sell and do marketing, everybody is your customer. Melayu ke, China ke, India, you better win their hearts. Can you share with us when you first started in an MNC? Okay, what kind of experience did you face?
I think it was a very interesting experience because after my about couple of weeks in KL, the induction, I was sent to East Coast. Basically, I was a trainee, and I was sent to deal this Central Pahang, and our office is in Mentakap, Temerloh. You know, I must tell you about the first day itself. When before me, there was another trainee who is a Chinese guy from Ipoh, who can't speak Hokkien, he speaks Cantonese more than anything else. His Hokkien is not good, And what happened was, as you know, Mentakap and Temerloh is a Hokkien town. Of course, their Hokkien is different from ours from Penang. They like Japeng, things like that. Gerber, I learned a little bit of Southern Hokkien there. But anyway, on the first day, I was sitting together with the distributors, and he was speaking Hokkien, saying, hi, these fellas, the last time they sent us a Cantonese fella, now they send this Malay, 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 in Hokkien, you were talking in Hokkien. For about 4 or 5 minutes, I kept quiet, and then I burst out laughing. I say, hey, brother, why you Hokkien, Malay? And on that night, they took me for karaoke, I feel so very, very deeply, language opens you to more opportunities. Just like you said just now, when you took up, the Malay sastra and all that, when you went to UKM, there is definitely a economic value to it. Not just economic value, I think there is the social value, emotional value. So when that's what happened. When I speak Hokkien and I was accepted immediately, although my Hokkien was different from theirs in that sense because I was in the north and theirs in the south, a bit different. But it really helped. Actually, it really helped.
So basically, the ability to speak in Hokkien won their hearts.
Won their heart,
That's important. And to close the deal.
Not just the distributors, but also many of the shops there, the Chinese shops, the Mama Papa shop, they are Hokkiens, so they speak Hokkien. So it's much easier as I go in and I chit-chat to them in the morning, or their kids are there, I chit-chat them in Hokkien. I think this is where we Malaysians should really, come to understand that the ability to master a few languages is actually something we all need to, look into, and we should be, chasing after it. Don't pick one language after another. I think it's a waste if you do that.
In the private sector, I mean, in the public sector, of course, the national language is almost 100% exclusively used. Okay, in the private sector, it is less used because that English is widely used. Do you think that it would be much more difficult and challenging for the Prime Minister to push for the use of Bahasa Melayu in the private sector?
It will definitely be. I mean, for practical reasons, not reason of politics or not reason for anything else. It's for practical reasons. As that many of the things we learn from, for example, if we are dealing with the international market, English will be the language that's needed. And I must say, during interviews, if you can't speak English, you lose at least 50% chances. We have to be careful, as you said correctly. I think the government employ about 10% of people, workers in Malaysia. The GLC is probably another 5%. And the other 85% are all the other businesses, which majority probably have to deal with, let's say, the English language and also Mandarin now, Mandarin. And GLCs, of course, you also need to deal with the English language or both languages. So I think it is very, it will be very hard to ask the business people to change for the sake of nationalism, as you call it. There must be a practical reason. There must be a practical reason.
You mentioned the GLC. I think even GLCs which have got to deal with the international platform like Petronas or even banks like CIMB or Malaysia Airlines, it will be almost impossible to expect them to use Bahasa Malaysia because you're dealing with the global thing. As you said that we cannot just be pushing for just one language. We know that the proficiency of English language among the Malaysian students have already taken a beating. It's gone down the drain. And now we should be learning even Mandarin. For example, you share experience just now that because you were exposed to Hokkien in Penang, when you went to a Hokkien speaking community in Kuantan, it won you a lot of customers. Like for me, because I can't speak Mandarin,
banana.
I would not.
Banana. You're called banana, bro. You can't speak Mandarin. Banana,
So because I can't speak Mandarin, I will not be able to do well in China. But the Malay who can speak Mandarin and Chinese will do better than me, way ahead of me in China. So that language, as you can see, I think the highest number of Malays who has enrolled themselves who has enrolled their children in Chinese schools have actually gone up tremendously. Obviously, they see the economic value. I mean, if you're a Malay, why you shouldn't have any Chinese nationalism? Even Malaysian Chinese don't have Chinese nationalism, right?
Yes.
It's purely for the Chinese, maybe it's heritage, but the economic value is there. Likewise, I'm really glad that I did Bahasa Indonesia in school and in university because I've been making trips to Indonesia. I want to share this experience.
Yes.
I watch a lot of Indonesian movies, okay, and that I've also tried to learn to improve my Bahasa Indonesia, and I've cultivated a lot of friends in Indonesia. Now, for me,
Bahasa Indonesia is actually very important. It's a slightly variation from Bahasa Malaysia. There are many words which are different, but you can pick it up because, as I said, the Bahasa Rumpun is there. So it's much more easier for us to pick up, but it's not easy. Now, Bahasa Indonesia is important because we all know that Indonesia has done so well over the last few years. If you look at the cabinet ministers, they're very impressive. Many of them are from Ivy League universities, and they have fantastic credentials. And I know that Indonesians now feel that they have gone far ahead. And in some areas, they may be slightly behind Malaysia, but they're feeling very confident about themselves, which I would not be surprised that there was this rebuttal by Indonesia that they wanted the accepted Malay language to be Bahasa Indonesia. Of course, we can say that it's a Bahasa Nusantara, but I think they feel very proud. And we are talking about a country which has got over 300 million people.
Right. It's a number.
And Malaysia is only 32 million. And I mean, historically speaking, the Indonesians always felt that they are much more progressive than Malaysia. And to put it bluntly, they always felt that they're the big brother, right? Okay. Talking to them, I can sense their sense of achievement. So it's important that we learn Bahasa Indonesia, because this is a country which is going to be big in a sense that the market share will increase. They're already a big country, demographic wise. So if you are weak in Bahasa Malaysia or Bahasa Melayu, it's going to be very hard for you to try to learn Bahasa Indonesia. You all know that those of us who watch Indonesian movies on Astro, you will find that they put Bahasa Malaysia subtitles there, because they know that even for us, you find it hard to struggle to learn Bahasa Indonesia. Just to give you an example, okay, I went to Tarakan. It's a small town in Kalimantan. Okay, so it's known for its seafood. So I went to a restaurant. I ordered gue. They use you can say gue instead of saya. Gue nak order, gue nak minta ketam. They give me a blank look. What's ketam? So they use the word kepiting. Okay, and those Noya families and Peranakan families from Penang would know that many of the Peranakan family actually use kepiting in their daily conversation. Okay, so I give an example. Jalan-jalan, okay, but it's pusing, okay. Mata kucing is linking. Berlainan, to berlainan is beda pendapat, okay. Joro is asinan. Lelaki, of course, you know, pria. Cakap is bicara. Percuma to them is gratis, Pak. Gratis, okay. Kereta is mobil. Pak, saya nak naik mobil. And pejabat is kantor. Kantor, Pak, di mana? And then, of course, kedai, toko, okay. Toko, Pak, di sebelah. So, because of the variation and differences, it's going to be really tough even for Bahasa Melayu to be used in a country like ASEAN. And the Prime Minister is right to say second language, because at the end of the day, if you are preparing a communique or if you are preparing the minutes again, and you want it to be 100% understood and accurate, at the end of the day, it's still English as a working language. And you know the ASEAN work on a consensus basis. If one country doesn't agree, it's gone. But having said that, okay, I really do not know why the Prime Minister was pushing that. Perhaps he wanted to make it a point. But we come back to this question of the importance of learning language. Bahasa Indonesia, Arabic, Chinese, improving your Bahasa Melayu. Now, I want to ask this, perhaps it's slightly sensitive, but Anas, you and I are brothers, so we can discuss this quite frankly. Why is it that some Malaysians, okay, are not proficient in Bahasa Melayu? They can speak and they learn, but it's very standardized, okay? So when I speak to Malay, I expect to speak to a fellow Muslim in a beautiful Malay, very comfortable. And kalau boleh, if I'm from Penang, I will speak even logat utara lah kan. We will talk about, dah makan ke belum ni? Dah makan dah, no? So we use things like that. And that, but for many Malaysians, it's very formal, okay? And that because it's formal, so if I'm a Malay speaking person, I find it very stiff to speak to a Malaysian, which I think that, look, perhaps that the Bangladeshi or the Pakistani has spoken Bahasa better by Bahasa Malaysia than you. Why do you think we have that problem?
I feel that there is a need for us to use the Bahasa. You see, the thing is, I personally not very crazy using Bahasa Malaysia because I tend to speak Logat Utara. I tend to speak very Penang, actually, very Utara lah, not say Penang. And when I do have to speak Bahasa Malaysia in a very formal way, I don't find it as how to say. I would say I don't find it as
not natural.
Not natural. It's not coming from my heart, But you see, the problem is we do feel that there are many Malays, unlike you, Chunwai. Many non-Malays, unlike you, especially even my friends in the, let's say those in the 50s and the 40s and 50s. Many actually still speak extremely Malay Bahasa Pasar. I think these are the things that's impacting certain group of Malays. You say, how come? After so many years here, you still cannot speak the language. I don't think we need to be fasih in Bahasa Malaysia, but we need to be able to menguasai Bahasa Malaysia. In other words, like this. This is in Penang, for example. Chunwai. I went to the what you call it. This is some time ago, like 7-8 years ago. I went to the what you call the Jabatan Immigration, and this person came out and said, saying that, oh, I don't know how to fill up the form. He said in Hokkien. A young lady, probably like at that time she's in like 30s. She said, I can't fill up the form, it's in Malay. So I think things like filling up the form in Malays and all that, you should be able to do it if you are Malaysian. And I think things like this may create what you call a reaction on certain group of Malays to say, hey, we have to push for this language. I think that's important. That's very important. And practicing the language. In other words, because our schools are very much, we got the Malay school, the Chinese school, and all that. And even the Tamilians, if you go for certain areas of people who go to Tamilian school, their language of Malay and English is extremely poor, especially the band 3, band 4, not the town, not the one in, let's say, in KL, So I feel that there is the reason is we are not using Bahasa Malaysia as what you call it, as often as we should. I think that's a reason. And there is of course different part of the country speaks a bit differently. The Kelantanis, the Penangai. Actually, Chunwai, as you were speaking in Indonesian, my mom's Indonesian. Actually, I speak Medanese Indonesian, which is different from Jakarta.
Different, yes, very different.
But as you say correctly, I totally agree that the market that's going to be opened by Indonesian, is going to be huge. So it is good for us to start watching Indonesian movies, to get to know, and I do find that the Indonesian language absorb words from a non-Indonesian words or non-Malay words far greater than us. For example, they use the word ori. Ori means original. Ori all the time. Or any ori is original. And they also, in other words, they are more willing to jump into it. They are more laissez-faire in their language. And that's the reason their language will grow much faster. And by sheer numbers, and they also have more what you call intellects who translate a lot of books outside from Indonesian, and if not the Indonesian language, into Indonesian language. Because ours are quite slow, I would say.
So I agree with you, Anas, at this point, because their reference books, they have a large number of intellectuals who writes in Bahasa Indonesia. That is why in the universities in Indonesia, they study in Bahasa Indonesia, and their books, reference books, are in Bahasa Indonesia. While in Malaysia, the lectures are conducted, the kuliah are conducted in Bahasa Malaysia, but the reference books are in English.
Correct.
So we have Malay medium students who come from rural areas. They go to universities. They speak in Malay, lectures in Malay. When it comes to the reference book, they are crushed because they can't understand English.
You see, that's the thing. If we were to prepare our people better in schools, to prepare them better in English, I always suggest at least one reading subject, either history or ilmu alam, They should be in English. The reason being is this, it is good actually when you go to university, you learn the lecture is in Malay, but you read in English. But as long, then you can improve both. So for me, it was a good thing that happened to me when I was in university. In fact, RealChunWai, one of the tricks I did was, because I have a few Malay friends in my team who cannot really understand English, my job is to get all the notes and explain to them in Bahasa Malaysia. So that they will get from me. I don't have to go and look for the notes. They go and do all the notes, and then I explain. So in other words, we can use it for our advantage. But the issue is this, we need to do something at the primary level, secondary level. This is the real issue. And you're right. We can debate, did our English became worse, or is it that we didn't keep up with English? A long time ago, actually, RealChunWai, those of us who can speak English are from town centers. These are Penang, Ipoh, Malacca and all that. Those in rural areas, they can't speak English. But right now, we are pumping out a lot of rural kids into MRSM, into schools, into universities. So they never had a chance to practice English as we did last time. So we need to spend more money, more focus, more energy in schools, of which we are not doing. We are not doing enough work in schools. And all these politics of, pitting against English and Malay and all this is not going to help. I think we should just say, hey, don't be silly, Now, for the Malay politicians, if you watch this, please don't do this. Who's going to lose? The Malay kids. The Malays are going to lose if you don't allow them to push them to speak English. They are not the one going to get jobs, They are the one who go for interview and fail, I think we need to do something at the what you call it, at the school level. So if they come to the university, like you say correctly, in Indonesia, a lot of the Muslim books that I read translated, it's not into Malay, it's translated into Indonesian. I can't find it into Malay. Some of the great writers, Muslim writers, the Renaissance Muslim writers, but it's translated in Indonesian, not in Malay. So we need to do this. Unless we're going to do that, we might as well make sure that our people be better in English.
Right. Yeah. It will be a great injustice in trying to memperkasakan Bahasa Melayu, in trying to push Malay, and then at the expense of English, or to wrongly send a message that, look, we're going to push Bahasa Malaysia and English is not important. That's the worst thing that we could do to our kids, because that the public sector can no longer accept any more stuff. The civil service is overbloated.
Correct.
So the only option left is the private sector. And if you can't speak English well, you're not going to get a job. So this is where the danger lies. And it's easy for politicians to be Malay heroes or to be nationalists, but it'll be at the expense of the poorer kids from the rural area especially. And for that matter, even in the urban areas, because English has already gone down so badly. So that's why I like to ask, why is it that in other countries, like you go to Switzerland, Belgium or Amsterdam, they can command more than 3 or 4 languages, no problem. Why is that ability? Of course, I know a lot of people from overseas, they come to Malaysia, they say, wow, Malaysians terror, man, can speak Malay, can speak English, sometimes can speak Tamil, can speak Chinese. You know so many languages. But there's also this danger that we can speak many languages, but we are master of none, okay? Yeah. Comparatively to, say, in some European countries where they are actually good. Do you feel that they give more weightage to all languages? They are seen to be a national language, international language?
I feel that they are, number one, they're more pragmatic, and number two is they don't allow politics to disturb. You see, when we talk about mother tongue, it can't. The reason why we call it mother tongue because your mom teach you. So you use your. We should use our mother tongue language at home, for example. I mean, I speak to my mom in Malay Indonesian. So in other words, as long as we keep that, and you can learn many other language, you're not going to lose your language. And I feel that I think that many countries out there, for example, China sooner or later going to be the most English-speaking country in the world because they got 1 billion old people, and like say 20% of their people can speak English, and they are doing that. They're spending money to learn in English. They're spending money, to go to English classes and all that. And I think our people are still not seeing this. We learn language not just for nationalist reason, but also for economic reason. Yeah. So, okay. And I think, RealChunWai, perhaps what we have to do is we need to reinterpret what is being nationalist. A nationalist Malay, for example, if you want to call yourself a nationalist Malay, not Malaysian, nationalist Malay must say that, I will make sure my Malay language remains strong, but my Malay community has a second language. It could be Arabic, it could be it could be English, but do not, what you call that, pit it, do not see it as complementary. Sure. So we need to reinterpret what's nationalism. And you're right, because when you go overseas, I mean, when we go to, like you say, like Belgium, and they see us Malaysian, they will try to talk to us to practice in English, Yeah, it's quite amazing. I thought it was amazing. And you go to places like Vietnam, they know you can speak English. They will want to practice with you the language, and that's how we want it to be. We want our people to do that. But right now we are making it into a political thing. I mean, that's why I say, if the Prime Minister feel that there's a good idea for us to push BM into what you call, when you go overseas, speaking BM, by all means do so. But at the same time say, hey, don't drop English. Don't drop English.
And if an investors, they come to Malaysia, or they have to decide which is the best place to put their money in, there'll be several variables that they look at. One, of course, is the costing factor, the operational matter, and the capex. Okay, these are standard things, and the ROI, the kind of thing. So that's done. Of course, when compared to other countries like Indonesia and Vietnam, even Thailand, we lose out in terms of availability of manpower. And then but we can make up in terms of, we probably have a better educated and better skilled workforce. And having put all that into question, finally they have to have several X factors. And Malaysia has always beat the rest because we have this asset that we are an English-speaking country.
Yes.
So these Europeans, they will say that, look, we got the extra factor, and we have a lot of international and private schools, because when their families settle down in Malaysia, they feel at home. Everything's at home because people speak English, and that the use of English is wide, and that they can send their kids to international school. So these are extra variables which we can beat other countries, which politicians need to understand. If you're trying to pitch a sale, this is important. Likewise, if investors from China, they come to Malaysia, they say that, look, okay, why Malaysia? Well, I feel comfortable because that I feel at home in Malaysia. There's a large Chinese community. Singapore is too small for me. Okay, so there are always these extra factors. Oh, for Arabs, they come to Malaysia. Well, this is a Muslim country.
Right.
You can get halal food. I feel like, I hope I can go to the mosque to pray. So we have these fantastic assets, which unfortunately many politicians do not see as valuable. The elephant in the room is that we are bad in English. We need to protect that asset. So I mean, we talk about, I want to come back to Indonesia. Forgive me if I sound very passionate about Indonesia. Okay. Yeah. Okay, because I mean, I've heard from them, okay, and they always tell me straight, okay, RealChunWai, Malaysia has got this bad hang up, okay. You look at Indonesia, you only see this is a country of maids and immigrant workers. We are sorry to tell you that we are behind your back. So watch out. And I take this very seriously. I talk to them, I understand, and they think that they actually think that Malaysians do not see the big picture in front of them. I'm here, unfortunately, I'll say that it's the politicians who do not see the big picture. I mean, most Malaysians who travel a lot can see a lot of changes which is happening in this region. We are falling back behind. Countries are overtaking us. And if we do not wake up from these realities, then we would be in trouble. So language is just one of them. Learning as much language as possible. And Anas, I just want to ask you, okay? Again, you are an adjunct professor at Taylor's University. It's one of the most reputable, if not one of the best private university in Malaysia. You interact with young people, students. and many of them include students who come from overseas to study in the Malaysian private university. Why is it that they, of course, I mean, if they go to UK or US to study, it's much more expensive, but why do foreign students choose Malaysia as a place to study?
I feel that number one is the standard of education is really good. I think we still, our private universities, can really turn out very good what you call graduates. And number two, of course, as you say, costing. The costing, I think we have to look at two parts to it. One is the fee to study, and the living standard. To study in UK, the living standard is going to be more expensive just to rent a place because of the the exchange rate and all that. So there are two reasons. One is economic reason. The other one is, of course, the quality of private education is pretty good. And we also have many levels of university, and that is also another giveaway for us. You will find there are universities where the Indonesians, many of them actually come to Malaysia to study. But this is the interesting thing. They spend 6 months or 1 year just to learn English. So they can enter the university, to enter can pass into the university or to pick up masters. So I think we are still attractive. We are still doing okay, but if we are not careful, we're gonna slip. Like I agree with you, we're gonna slip away. And you're right about one thing, when I talk to my relatives in Indonesia, their spirit is quite high. It's like us in the 80s and 90s. But when we used to talk last time, in the 80s and 90s, they are so spirited. Now we are not that spirited anymore, Malaysians, but they are so spirited, and they see a brighter future. They see a more positive future. Malaysians actually not anymore. Even majority of my friends my age, there's always a lot to complain, always to see negatively. And English is just one of it, as you say correctly. One of it. One of the issues that we are concerned about. But I'm an optimist. I'm hoping that our politicians will wake up, our leaders will wake up, and realize that we need to reverse back, and we need to actually refocus ourselves. I think the last few years it's even worse. We've been changing prime ministers. I mean, we used to laugh at other countries for changing prime minister a lot. Now we are doing it. So there's a lot to be done, and this topic of English is just one of the topics that we are still taking it from an emotional angle, from a political angle, rather than from a factual angle.
And again, thank you, Anas, for joining in this conversation. We all agree that we need to be champions of many languages, not one, but we uphold the importance of Bahasa Melayu or Bahasa Malaysia in unifying all races. You have to be very good in Bahasa Malaysia if you consider yourself a Malaysian. There's no excuse on that. And I think, Anas, you share with me this statement of mine. But more importantly, I think politicians should focus on real important issues like our economy, and that is the big picture and not other side issues. So on that note, thank you, Malaysia, and Anas, Malaysians, thank you for following this conversation. Good night.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.